Lux Occult is a part of the Green Mushroom Podcast Network.
Overnight, very whitely, discreetly, very quietly, our toes, our noses take hold on the loam, acquire the air. Nobody sees us, stops us, betrays us. The small grains make room. Soft fists insist on heaving the needles, the leafy bedding, even the paving, our hammers, our rams, earless and eyeless, perfectly voiceless, widen the crannies, shoulder through the holes. We diet on water, on crumbs of shadow, bland-mannered asking, little or nothing. So many of us, so many of us. We are shelves, we are tables, we are meek, we are edible, nudgers and shovers in spite of ourselves, our kind multipliers. We shall by morning inherit the earth, our foot's in the door. That is Mushrooms by Sylvia Plath. Hello and welcome to this special Friday the 13th edition of the Lux Occult podcast, where we gleefully taunt the mundane, butcher the Latin and most other languages, and also discuss a variety of topics related to occultism and esotericism. I'm your host, Lux Estrada, and if you're hearing the sound of my voice, that means that magic and this show are for you, if you want them. There are a lot of different ways to be more free, and using magic or making space for a spiritual practice in your life can be one of them. As always, I don't speak for anybody but myself. Others can, will, and should disagree sometimes. How would we ever learn anything if we all agreed all the time? After all, and like those who attempt to be reasonable should be willing to do, I am willing to revise my opinions based on new evidence. I have a special offering for you today. I sat down with Dave, Amy, and Chad from the Unearthing Paranormalcy podcast, as well as Flood from Ex V Planis. Or perhaps they sat down with me, since I'm the new kid on the block in this one. But regardless, we all sat down together to take part in a tradition which is forming among the Green Mushroom Podcast Network shows of telling ghost stories for spooky season. As you may know, it's always spooky season around here. The way my office is decorated is proof of that. But I'm very stoked for Halloween, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, and the rest of the seasonal celebrations. I'm also very stoked to be releasing my third album of ritually produced occult aural, as in having to do with the ears, erotica, Void Machine Adjustment, which is out today. It's been a very intense project to put together and involved hundreds of hours of magical and artistic work. It was a lot, but I'm quite happy to finally be releasing it back into the void. This project took me to some uncomfortable and scary places, so releasing it today was a fun way to acknowledge that. You can check out a supercut of the album, which is probably the best way to go since there's no chance of ads or track breaks or anything like that. And that's on YouTube. And there is also a link in the show notes to the Bandcamp and SoundCloud offerings of it. We'll play a track off of that album during the episode after we get done with the spooky. To lead us into that time, we're going to be hearing a track off of the upcoming Green Mushroom Project and We the Hallowed digital mixtape, Fuck Around and Find Out Part 2. That's going to be released on the 31st, which is the 3rd anniversary of the Mushroom's founding, and also peak haunting season. Shout out to everybody over at We the Hallowed. Haunt on. You can find them at wethehallowed.org and learn more about the Green Mushroom Project at greenmushroomproject.com. Find links to that in the show notes. To celebrate the mushroom's 3rd birthday, we'll be building a ceremony which we will conduct online out of lines that we drew randomly from the 23 Bibliomancy Experiment scripture. And here's what those are. Investigational tool as a common thread to a kind of unilateral. I alluded earlier to a problem of speed, but this is also a problem. Thinking never yields accurate descriptions of metabolic processes, but neither age nor blindness had dulled her wits. Captains would appreciate it, otherwise it would have been. Okay, so we're going to take that and do some brainstorming and some magical thoughts surrounding it and come up with a very cool and fun celebration to rock for the mushroom's birthday. I do have some preliminary thoughts, but I'm very excited to see what this collaborative process will yield. We'll be conducting the 15th iteration of the 23 Bibliomancy experiment on the 23rd of the month, October 23rd, using the 23rd line of the 23rd page of whatever book you feel wants to participate, and these will be arranged in random order using dice rolls. You can join us for the fun on the Green Machine Discord server. Let me or Dave Ardre, who is on this episode, know if you'd like a link to that, and we can get you all set up. So before we get any further into the fun here, I'd like to say thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me and my very rad guests here on the show. Time is, of course, a zero-sum game, and I really do appreciate you spending some of yours with us here. I'm quite introverted, as most people who know me are aware, and I also have a high volume of work right now, lots of stuff going on, so I don't use social media very often. I'm not on there constantly or anything like that, but that certainly doesn't mean that I don't want to hear from you all. I'm super lucky to have such amazing listeners, collaborators, cohorts, co-conspirators, or whatever cat's pajamas are you all. I always welcome people's thoughts, questions, comments, suggestions, or arcane revelations. You can reach me at luxoccultpod@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram at luxoccultpod, and you can give me some stuff for that listener mail segment there. If you like the show and you like the work that I've been getting into, you can support it on Patreon. And if you do so, you can take a bibliomancy break with me. There are no tiers, levels, or whatever, so give as you will. Buy Me a Coffee is an option for those who wish to show their support with a one-time donation and don't feel like doing the whole Patreon rigmarole. So thank you so much to everybody who is already doing so. Your support makes the show possible, quite literally, by allowing me to cover the expenses associated with it and justifying to myself the time that I spend in this pursuit. So many thanks. I appreciate it. Alright, so since this is a special spooky episode, we're not going to be encountering any intrusions from Luxa from the future, as is often the case with the regularly formatted episodes, but we will be returning to our normal format soon, so do not fret. I have a lot of cool stuff recorded that I'm super stoked to bring you all, as well as plans to sit down with some more really awesome people, so all kinds of cool stuff coming up on the horizon here. I'll read you the last of the tentacle poetry I received after the meaty portion of the show. Big thanks to everybody who participated in the poetry and cryptography contest I ran here recently. Winners will be announced in the next episode. Big thanks also to everybody who contributed tracks to Fuck Around and Find Out Part 2, the Green Mushroom Project and We the Hallowed digital mixtape, which will be available this Halloween. As we roll into my chat with Dave, Amy, Chad, and Flood, let's get spooky with an audio sigil from Tarek Rising and Abracadabra. Here's the Call of Cthulhu. Fuck Around and Find Out mix.
Folks, I am very excited to bring everybody back for the second annual Spookier Side of the Mushroom. I guess we should call this Spookier Side 2 Electric Spookaloo.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. That was bad, but you know what? I'm going to take
It's
it.
really bad.
I'm going to own it.
I love that. I love that for us. I think that we're off to a very bad, which is a very good start.
Well, then I am simultaneously excited and disappointed to be sharing this with you. All right, so we got a roster that's a little bit different this year. I'm Flood from Ex V Planis.
We got the whole gang from Unearthing Paranormalcy this year. We got Amy, Dave, and Chad.
Hey, we got Chad. We missed you last year.
I made
buddy.
it this time. Woo.
Yay! Fuck yeah!
And we're also lucky enough to have the one who actually brought us all together with us.
I think that was a group effort, but yeah, this is Lux Estrada of the Lux Occult podcast.
Well, this is going to be a hoot. Traditionally, this is obviously going to become an annual thing. It's way too fun to not do this. So we've all decided to handpick some spooky, strange, and odd stories from our various places where we live. And today, rather than actually having a structure, Luxa threw out the idea of maybe we should roll dice to figure out who goes first. And I kind of like that idea.
Absolutely. So we're going to be putting a d20 in our mouths and rolling initiative.
Oh.
Are you all ready?
I am ready.
All right. I rolled a 3.
I got a 16.
I got a 19.
All right. Looks
Amy's
like,
roll counts for us, so.
Ah.
it looks like Flood is going to be the lucky first talker.
Wow, put me on the spot. God. All right. Well, so last year when we decided to do this, we all decided to pick stuff close to home. But as most of y'all know, I recently moved back home, and I'm actually doing a lot of research now. So I don't really want to spoil any of that. So I decided to scale it back a little bit. And this year I want to turn my eye back to North Carolina, where I've lived for the last several years up until recently. And Dave, when we first started talking about doing this second volume of our fettuccine Alfredo here, or spooky spaghetti, or whatever you want to call it, you suggested bonus points for hitchhiking ghosts and crybaby bridges, and I kind of have one that hits a double whammy.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this place is called Lydia's Bridge in Jamestown, North Carolina. Now, it is said that the spirit of a young woman haunts the underpasses of 2 bridges in this small town. One is a railroad bridge over East Main Street, currently in use, and the other is an abandoned underpass that may be the site of a fatal car accident decades ago. And the spirit, commonly referred to by the locals as Lydia, has been seen on rainy nights walking alone or standing beside the road, searching for help to get back home. And the legend of Lydia is based on sightings and stories, some nearly a century old, of a young woman in white as she stands by the road, attempting to flag down passing motorists for help. The ghost is believed to be that of a young woman who died tragically at the bridge many, many years ago. The stories that have grown around the alleged sightings share a common detail of a fatal car accident that occurred as a boy and girl drove to a school dance on a rainy night. And ever since that accident, the distressed, sometimes crying spirit of the girl, still wearing her formal dress, returns to the scene seeking help. The local lore tells of the first sighting of Lydia around 1924. A man named Burke Hardison told a story of his encounter with a young woman as he traveled home to High Point on a rainy and foggy night, when he was a student at NC State University. Hardison claimed to see a girl dressed in a white gown, and she signaled for him to stop and asked him to help her get to High Point. He drove her home, and when he went to get out of the car and open the car door for her, she had vanished into thin air. He knocked on the door of the house, asked if the girl was there, only to learn from the mother that she had been killed in an accident a few years earlier. Similar occurrences have taken place over the decades, with the most recent sighting documented in 2008, when a young man who had recently moved into Jamestown for college saw the fabled phantom in white walking along the road near the bridge, which is right around the corner from the university. Thinking of her as a fellow student, and being one of the few in his own class lucky enough to have a car at that time, he offered her a ride to her destination, and, as with almost every encounter, the young man returned to the address so many had before, only to find that his passenger had mysteriously gone missing. This young man did not take the experience very well, and after discovering that dozens of people had had similar encounters, immediately packed up his belongings and returned home to Charlotte. Now, as far as the truth behind all this goes, there have been many attempts to match records and evidence with a real person named Lydia, but none have turned up any conclusive proof of a young woman by that name who may have died in an automobile accident in the area during the 1920s. However, in recent times, 2 North Carolinian researchers who have been chasing the Lydia legend for many years, Amy Greer and Michael Renegar, came upon an article in the Greensboro Patriot from June 21st, 1920, that reported the death of a young woman named Annie Jackson who had been killed on the High Point Road, about 3 miles from High Point and close to the location of both bridges. In the account, when the driver lost control of the vehicle, Annie was thrown from the car. The article noted that the road was wet and the car had rolled several times in the accident. This could possibly be the origin of one of the longest-running hitchhiking ghosts of all time. And the name, Lydia? Well, it turns out that Annie Jackson's middle initial was L. And we're not sure if it's actually Lydia, but that's pretty compelling nonetheless. Now, I actually had the opportunity to investigate this location myself, and if you listen to my show, this is where I picked up the now infamous Help Sally EVP, which essentially turned me into an obsessed paranormal investigator. And during that trip, I also managed to track down a few locals who've experienced the same thing, almost verbatim every single time. Distressed woman in white, rainy or foggy night, asks for a ride home to the same house every time, mind you, before vanishing upon their arrival at the address.
That's probably actually one of the best hitchhiking ghost stories that I've heard.
Yeah, I loved that. Good delivery, too. Very
Thank
good.
you. There you go. I appreciate that. I got a thing for hitchhiking ghosts, so I love when you brought that one up, Dave, because like one of my personal favorite stories is Resurrection Mary, and obviously that's the most well-known hitchhiking ghost. But I find this one fascinating because we're now actually coming up on a whole century of reported sightings of this.
Oh, that's very fascinating. Yeah, hitchhiking ghosts, ladies in white too. That's a really common trope. Crybaby bridges. Those ladies in whites, we've talked about this before, how this could have come over from Ireland, and there they called them banshees.
Mm-hmm. Quite possibly, especially like the wailing aspect of it.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I can't wait to go back to North Carolina because I would love to do like an extended investigation on this, especially during the spring when it is constantly, raining and foggy. So, I don't know. There might be a bit of an epilogue to this story here in the next year or so. We'll see.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Me too.
Awesome. Well, it looks like Unearthing Paranormalcy crew is going to be going next.
Woohoo!
And y'all got a few for us, don't you?
2 different stories.
That's right.
Okay.
First, we're going to tell you about the Sooner Theater. The Sooner Theater was built in 1929 after the town of Norman, Oklahoma's first hotel, the Planters Hotel, was demolished on the site.
It was designed by Harold Umeno, son of Patricio Hermeno, a Peruvian artist who had spent his life studying in Spain before being invited to the University of Oklahoma as a professor of art in 1911. The building is a Spanish colonial style and was built for around $200,000.
This budget included imported mosaics and Italian marble. Patricio Jimeno hand-painted the 252 Spanish coats of arms that still adorn the ceiling. A lounge for ladies on the mezzanine was laid out to accommodate those that needed a break from boisterous productions. And there was a soundproof cry room for babies tucked under the balcony in the back. For years, patrons could pay a quarter or a dime for the kids and watch the last days of vaudeville and the golden age of Hollywood on the screen.
By the 1970s, larger multiplexes were outselling it, so it focused instead on live performances and B movies. The last movie to be shown there was Attack of the Amazons in 1975. Fire occurred shortly after this, and the city of Norman brought the building to demolish it.
Concerned Northenites joined together to form a non-profit to save the theater and rent it from the city. Nowadays, the theater has 15,000 attendees a year for concerts and stage play productions.
This theater is also home of a lady in white. She is most often seen on the east stairs descending them with poise and grace. Others have seen her on the balcony in a white ball gown. But on the balcony she is somber, often staring into nothingness. Some have also claimed to have heard her weeping.
As for who she could be, that's entirely wrapped up in legend. And that legend is different depending on who is telling the tale. I personally heard she was a woman that was killed back when the place was the Planters Hotel.
Now, this place I have been to so many times in my life because I did dance growing up and I did all kinds of plays and things like that. So I've been everywhere in the theater. I've never seen this lady in white, but I know from personal experience that backstage of the theater and down in the dressing rooms, which is underneath the stage, it's very eerie. And even if you're with a big group of people, you still get that eerie feeling, that hair standing up on the back of your neck, like somebody's right behind you the whole time. And now it's not a very big space, so if there are people there, there is probably somebody right behind you. But if you're down there by yourself, you get the same feelings. Up in the balcony, you feel like you're being watched a little bit. It's an amazing theater for just like the architecture and the design inside, but it definitely has that spook feel when you are there.
Sounds spooky. Very cool.
So my question is, do they offer paranormal investigations there? Because I'm on my way if there is.
They don't. Not many places here will embrace their paranormal. It's part of a ghost tour that we did go on. But you don't go into the theater. You just get to kind of walk past it, and like tour guide tells you about the lady in white and the stories. But there's not much. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody that's gotten to investigate the theater.
Yeah. I say the Moore Lindsay house right over by the theater. I think they did their first ghost hunt last month.
Yes, and we had to miss it, and I'm kind of
yeah.
Well, hopefully the way that things seem to be going, like pretty much worldwide, is a lot more people are starting to embrace the paranormal and the unexplained. So I don't know, like with a little bit of luck, maybe in the next few years we'll start to see more and more places open up to offer people the opportunity to get into it, you know?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's great for making money.
Oh, yeah.
So many people are willing to go to haunted places solely because they are haunted places.
Yeah, tourism is great. Ghost tourism, right? Like,
yeah. We're doing quite a bit of that here over the spooky season ourselves. I finally convinced some of the local town to let me get into the spooky places, and I might make you some money. And they said, okay. See, that's the thing. It's like, hey, let me do this, and I will make you money. And then they're like, oh, I remember money. Okay.
Yeah, just drumming up interest in the place and everything. So yeah,
absolutely. That's a great one. I can't. I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's a really cool theater on its own. But
yeah, it's really nice. Yeah.
Let's be sure to get some links for everybody who's listening, so that we can add those to the show notes, and everybody can get a visual of the things that we're talking about.
Totally, we will do that. Now, do you want us to go on and do our next story, or do Luxa, you want to tell one and then we can come back with ours, or what do you want to do?
Well, I'm doing to tell one. I actually have two things to share, so maybe I should do the first one and then you guys can do the other one.
Sweet.
Sure. Okay, fuck yeah. This first one is just a short one, and I do want to say that there is a trigger warning in here. The topic of self-harm in a major way comes up, so if that's not something that sounds fun, skip ahead about 45 seconds. It's not a long story.
Thank you for the warning.
Of course, yes. All right, so for those who are still here, so this is about a pretty famous haunted bridge here. I should say, too, that this is from FloridaHauntedHouses.com, so thank you to Florida Haunted Houses for this little snippet. The beautiful Sunshine Skyway Bridge is the most iconic bridge in Florida, but it's also deadly. It replaced a bridge that partially collapsed in 1980, killing several people. But it's best known as one of the most popular places in Florida to commit suicide. Since it was built, more than 200 people have jumped to their deaths from the bridge. It is believed that at least one of them lingers in the area. She is a young female with blonde hair who is said to climb into your car on one end of the bridge and will vanish before you reach the other side. And there is a note here. Please note it is illegal to stop anywhere on the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Police will approach you if you do so, so don't do that. Cheers.
Duly noted, and I have been there.
All right. I don't, it's not popping up in my mind. What was it like?
You know what? Yet again, I will add photos to this so that people can see what we're talking about. So the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, obviously that's no more. What replaced it is just yet another one of these high bridges that goes over the water that you find pretty much anywhere in the Tampa area. But whenever I did that spooky trip to Florida just this last January, Jill and I went out there to check the place out, and she gave me a little bit more insight to the place.
Okay.
Whenever the bridge collapsed, one of the biggest tragedies was that there was a tour bus, and I'm not sure if it may have been a city bus or it was a tour bus, but it was chock full of people of all ages, and when this bridge collapsed, the bus goes down with it. Nobody survived. Everybody, pretty much anybody on that bridge that day, they perished. There were very few survivors who dropped that made it out. But one of the pieces of folklore there is, apparently even up until this day, you can be out there where the Sunshine Skyway Bridge used to be, or at least the portion of it that's still there. And on occasion, people have reported seeing a translucent bus driving through and everybody inside pressed against the windows screaming.
Oh, wow.
Yikes. Scary.
Zoinks! Zoinks! Like G-Scoob. But that gets even more interesting. So we went down there to run some experiments and just kind of get a feel for the place. Now, unfortunately, you can't go out onto the road itself, but there's a fisherman's pier that's kind of attached to the side of the road, and that actually is part of the old, or the baseline for the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And as you said, Luxa, like a lot of people choose to meet their fate around this area. And on top of that, it's also become like kind of a hot spot for random acts of violence. So it just seems like the whole area is just...
Seems like a bad place.
Yeah, it's pretty thick. And it was thick enough, like we just went there for a total of 45 minutes. She brought me there to walk me around and just ask me if I was picking up on anything. So as we're sitting there standing on the pier and I'm just kind of soaking everything in, and honestly I'm just being distracted by the birds and the water and the fresh air. But eventually I just kind of let myself reach out a little bit, and then I felt drawn to this awning where there were a couple of picnic tables. And I went directly into this space, and then I stood there for a second, and I don't know how to describe it, but it was, the air started to smell stale, not like the fresh air that was, blowing everywhere else. And then my eyes were for some reason drawn immediately to my left and up a little bit, and what do you know? I see a very, very well-defined hole. And after I'm sitting there looking at it, I look around and I see a couple of more, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure those are bullet holes. And so we did a little cursory research there on the bridge, and not 5 months earlier, some sort of bizarre gang fight broke out, and the exact place that I was standing is where the victim was shot.
Crazy.
So that was a new one. So, yeah, I would say that whole stretch is, that's like a highway to hell scenario, I think.
All right. Well, cheers. Stay away from that place if anybody's around.
Yeah, great for
Unless
fishing.
you want to go do some paranormal investigation
I
or
would say,
fishing.
now I just want to go.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like, I would love to go there. The thing is, it's like great for fishing, great for sightseeing. Just don't go there at night. Apparently, it's very bad.
Yeah, it sounds dangerous. So, just saying. I mean, not just even for ghosts, just for, other reasons. So,
Yeah.
The ghost is probably the safest thing. I mean, for the living that you got to watch out for.
Yeah, but I'm over here kind of like, when it comes to the paranormal, I'm just like Darkwing Duck, Let's get dangerous.
Oh man, I feel like there's a t-shirt in there somewhere for Ex V Planis. I love that.
Oh no, the
Let's
first
get
shirt.
Dangerous.
I'm actually going to have these first shirts printed out here in the next couple of months. Really, really simple. It's just going to be the logo, the name, and on the back it just says Ghost Bait.
All right, that's very fun. I love it.
Well, that was a fantastic one. Like I said, thank you for bringing that one up because it's I find that place to be fascinating and would love to do like a much deeper dive into it somewhere in the future.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing your experiences and insight there. This was kind of a little, I wanted to get the bonus points, right, for the bridge or whatever. So you brought a lot more to it. So did I get the bonus points, Dave? Okay, good, excellent.
So I guess we'll throw the skull back to the Unearthing Paranormalcy crew.
Yeah, I'm excited about this, and we were chatting a little bit before we started recording, and
which we have no idea what in the hell this thing is, but I can't wait to find out.
Yeah, I had ideas like just based on the way that the word sounds, but yes, I can't wait to hear more.
Well, this story is going to tie together Oklahoma and Florida.
All right.
Native American legend.
Cool.
And it is the Stakini. It appears that the Stakini, or the Owl Woman legends, began in the Everglades of Florida with the Seminole tribe. When the tribe was forced from Florida to relocate to Oklahoma during the Trail of Tears, the stories relocated with them. Now, since the Seminole weren't the only tribes relocated in Oklahoma, this is the point that the legend seems to spread throughout most of what was called the 5 civilized tribes, which consisted of the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Creek or Muskogee, and the Seminole.
Each tribe has their own variation and name for this humanoid owl, but the basics are pretty much the same. In most legends, they are considered a vampiric witch that can shapeshift. In most legends, they can shift to any animal, but prefer that of the 9-foot great horned owl.
Now, if you've never seen a great horned owl, you need to look them up. I'm not a very big bird fan, but these are some of the most beautiful creatures, and they are massive birds of prey.
You would never know if someone you knew was a Stakini, for when they are in their human form, they are pleasant, friendly people. It isn't until night, when everyone is asleep in bed, that they slip out to the woods and shift into their owl form.
In order to shift to their owl form, they must regurgitate their organs. They then hang them from a tree or hide them in order to keep other nocturnal animals from eating them.
Fun fact, owls are known to regurgitate their prey when they are done with them.
At this point in the legend, it starts to change based on what tribe. But for the most part, it seems that they go and eat the hearts of sleeping humans. In some stories, they then take the form of the person that they ate. Some, they just eat until they're full. And in some stories, it seems to be the story of revenge.
The Apache tribe has what they call Big Owl. Big Owl is a malicious and dangerous giant often used as a boogeyman in children's stories. Big Owl is sometimes described a man-eating ogre, and the other a horned owl large enough to carry off a child.
Also in the legends, to hear the cry of a Stakini or owlman is an omen of death.
Interesting enough, when I was writing this, my daughter was watching this show back in her room, and there was an owl on the show, and I was sitting on the couch writing this out, and I heard an owl hoot, and I'm not gonna lie, part of me got a little bit scared.
It's also said that if you speak their name, that too can attract the Stikini to you.
Now that I've said the name a few hundred times in the past few days, I may just be screwed.
There is a way to kill and destroy the Stikini. If a person can find and destroy the organs of the Stikini, then it will die. Some say you must sprinkle them with sacred salt. Sunlight may prove fatal to a Stikini who has not turned back into a human shape. Stikinis themselves may be killed by arrows or other weapons that have been ritually prepared and dressed with sacred herbs.
There are reports of Stikinis in the Everglades of Florida, and this could be due to the fact that the U.S. government was not able to relocate all of the Seminoles to Oklahoma because some of them were able to hide in the forests of the Everglades and avoid capture.
There also seem to be reports of the Stikini in Oklahoma, especially in what is now called Seminole County and around the town of Sassaquah. There was also a report of a Stikini living in an abandoned house in Shawnee. All of these places are about 30 minutes east of where we are sitting right now.
And I brought some stories of the Stikini for you. Through the First Seminole War, a small group of elderly Seminole women were allowed to remain in their homes north of Fort Brooke on the Hillsborough River. In 1835, the United States moved forward with plans to relocate all of the Seminole west of the Mississippi. When given this news, these women were angered, refused to move, and threatened that Fort Brooke would be forever cursed. Soon thereafter, 110 soldiers left Fort Brooke, moving northward. The first morning at camp, a young soldier was found dead in his bed. An investigation concluded that the man's heart had been removed.
This same scenario happened night after night, and as the fear of the Seminole women's curse grew stronger, Soldier Joseph Sprague abandoned his post and fled through the forest at dusk. He saw a group of Seminole women whom had cursed the soldiers. He watched in horror as they kneeled, chanting and expelling their internal organs from their mouth. One by one, they took the form of an owl and took off into the night.
They were the Stikini witches of Seminole legend coming to exact their revenge.
Sprague hurried the news to Fort Brooke, but by the time reinforcements arrived, all 109 other soldiers lay dead in their beds with their hearts removed. The group of elderly Seminole were never seen again, but will always be remembered in this story of the Dade Massacre. And some of this story is actually true.
Joseph Sprague was, in fact, one of 3 survivors. Along with Private Joseph Sprague, there were Private Edward DeCourcy and Private Ransom Clark. There were, in fact, 110 soldiers from Fort Brooke, and they were slaughtered by the Seminole.
That's where the accounts seem to start going on different paths entirely. According to Private Clark, the soldiers who were on a resupply mission were ambushed by a group of Seminole warriors. The Seminole warriors took out 50 soldiers on their initial ambush, and then picked off the others one by one, not leaving until everyone was dead or dying.
Now, Privates DeCourcy and Clark hid among the bodies, and reports say that Clark looked as though he was dead, suffering several wounds and bleeding from the head.
As for Private Sprague, the most that I could find was that he was in the swamp nearby. So, could he have seen a group of Stikini women? Maybe, but there's no official record of that. On the way back to Fort Brooke, the 3 were again attacked by the Seminole, and they split as to try to make it harder for them to be caught. Private Edward DeCourcy was caught and killed. Both Clark and Sprague made it back to Fort Brooke.
The only report I seem to be able to find about the attack is from Clark. And the little bit I did find on Sprague was that he stayed in the army, but was illiterate, and there was not a written report by him.
I don't quite understand why no one would have dictated it for him, but then again, I don't know much about 1835 U.S. military protocol.
This also would be the battle that led to what is often referred to as the Second Seminole War, which led to the removal of hundreds of Seminoles to Oklahoma and the death of 1,500 U.S. soldiers.
That is metal as fuck.
Yeah, that's a wild story for sure. Yeah, the part about the organs thing is definitely very metal.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. As soon as you hit that, I was like, "This is a great Norwegian black metal album cover."
I was thinking about that too. I was like, as soon as you're like, and then they regurgitate their organs and hang them in a tree, and I was like, "Fucking metal."
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh.
Very cool. All right.
That is a fantastic story. Like the lore of the creature or the phenomena itself is phenomenal, but that is a great little that's a great bookend. And yet again, complete and total disregard for personal safety. Tell me where it all happened. I'll go and track this thing down.
Well, Seminole County is 2 counties east of us. It's about a 30-minute drive to Shawnee.
Yeah. And if you're ever in the woods there at night and come upon organs dangling above you, it's best to leave them alone and run very, very far away.
Nah, I'm probably going to use them to make sausage, to be honest.
Well, and also right in that same area, there's reports of a dogman. So you could hit the Stakini and dogman all up in one trip because they're all in that same area.
I love that you bring that. Is it just me, or is there a massive boom right now in Dogman? Like, whether it's focus on it or new updates, like current sightings, there seems to be a Dogman boom happening right now.
I'm noticing dogmen and also skinwalkers disguising as pet dogs.
And
I've been seeing
wait,
a lot
what?
of I've been seeing the skinwalkers one. Have you seen the video of the lady's little poodle? I don't know if I actually just saw it today.
Links.
The lady in Florida had this dog. It looked just like her dog. Come up to her back door and wanted in, and she wouldn't let it in. And she was like, "I know how to tell if it's my dog," and was like, "Sit, spin around, lay down," and it just followed the commands perfectly. And she goes, "I know you're not my dog," and then closed the blinds and wouldn't let the dog in.
Wait, just real quick, was her dog outside and she wouldn't let her own dog in because it was behaving to? I want to make sure I'm understanding this story right.
Like, yes, but
because it was a skinwalker.
Yeah, she believed it was a skinwalker because it was growling and trying to bite her through the window, and then she was like, "There's
that dog is okay."
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. It was a crazy little video. It just popped up on my Facebook today, or TikTok video that was on Facebook, but.
You got to send a link.
Skinwalkers through Florida right now.
I mean, animals can act out when they're hurt or injured, ill or something too. I mean, just saying, I don't know.
I don't know if she ever let him in or not. I just feel like it just showed that part of the video, and she's just like, "Oh hell no, that ain't my dog."
I mean, what? Okay, so 1, what part of Florida, and 2, were bath salts involved?
And also,
it's Florida, so probably.
I sometimes wonder to what extent people are cynically trying to go viral or whatever too, right? If you're filming yourself doing this shit, it's one thing if somebody else is filming you flipping your shit, being that dude on this airplane isn't fucking real. That's one thing. But if you're filming yourself doing that, I almost feel like there could be a little bit of cynicism in there for folks. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, everything on TikTok is real, right? So
no,
unclear. I don't.
No, we're not going to go down this rabbit hole, or I will start screaming and foaming at the mouth. No, I just, as a paranormal investigator, I will just say this and this alone: if it's hashtag paranormal and it's on TikTok, it's bullshit and it infuriates me. And
until the Ex V Planis TikTok channel comes on.
No. We tried that. I tried. I signed up, I opened an account, and then I fucked around with TikTok for maybe 3 days, and I'm like, nope. No, absolutely not.
I haven't gotten there yet, and I don't know if I ever will.
Didn't download it for the longest time, and then I finally did because my friend posts videos on there, and so I wanted to help him get views. But that was the only time I ever used that app.
delete
not
the
as good of a
app
friend
and
as you are.
just view it through. You can view it anonymously through a browser, and it'll still bump up the views. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good
I
tip.
just don't
All right,
put your
okay.
info out there, is all I'm saying. But
Don't feed yourself to the algorithms unless you have to.
yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah, very cool. Thank y'all.
The Stakini is actually one of the very first episodes we did was on Stakini.
If you say it one more time, I swear to God.
Stakini. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Ah!
Look, I promise you, after we get off of this, I'm going to go stare in the mirror and probably say Stinkini like 100, 150 times. So if it really does follow that horror trope, don't worry. I'm going to up the ante tonight because I need some excitement down here. Things are boring.
There you go.
Well, I guess the ball's back to you, Luxa. Excuse me, the skull is back to you, Luxa.
All right, fantastic. Well, so I'm going to share with you all a hometown haunts story from Orlando here. This is by Amanda M. Branham from the fall 2015 edition of Reflections magazine. All right, so this is about a potter's field. It's not just old buildings that have ghost stories attached to them. Bricks and mortar aren't the precursors for hauntings. Orange Hill Cemetery, long the inspiration for ghostly stories, today resembles a vacant field more than a final resting place. Trees and shrubbery, excuse me, a shrubbery.
Another shrubbery!
Bring me another shrubbery!
Several shrubbery are scattered in clusters around the grassy burial plot that from 1907 to 1961 was used as a potter's field, a pauper cemetery, for about 500 families who could not afford burial for their relatives. Of those 500 graves, only 5 plots have markers. Those have been dated in the early 1940s. Without much to signify its use as a burial ground for decades, the cemetery was forgotten and some people used the patch of grassy land at Michigan and Fern Creek Avenue as a park. Then, more than 30 years after the last burial at Orange Hill, county officials discovered its original use using a survey of old county property. In 1996, the county put up a sign at the property that identified it as Orange Hill Cemetery. But even before the grassy land was identified as a former cemetery, stories circulated about the place being haunted. One tale involves a shadowy figure who's been spotted at Orange Hill from time to time, watching, waiting, seething. More than one person said they never felt quite right walking through Orange Hill. It felt as though someone was glaring at them from just out of sight. Perhaps some stories speculated, even though the county eventually put up a stone marker and planted greenery to pay respect to the dead, for some spirits that was not enough. Tales of whispers filtering through the air, or the sounds of something scrabbling in the grass, could be chalked up to over-imaginations. Or lizards in the scrabbling case. Or had it really happened, the author speculates, had something actually reached up and grabbed someone's calf hard enough to cause a bruise? Or is all of this just scary fiction? Interesting to consider. Thank you, Miranda M. Branham.
It sounds to me like some very interesting phenomena.
Phenomena.
Absolutely. I had hoped to go and check this place out before recording, but unfortunately I did not have the time to do the kind of like on the boots paranormal investigation that Flood likes to get into. But perhaps I could do it soon.
Well, hey, if you do decide to do that, you have Jill's contact info. I mean, she will more than happy come and join you, and she's got like decades of experience beyond me.
That would be dope. Yeah, we could do like a little picnic. I think there's some cool metaphysical shops over there too that we might be able to hit up if she's into it. So
no, you're definitely speaking her language. Yeah, you two need to talk. We'll get into that after the show.
Okay, hell yeah.
So that really reminds me of here in Norman, we have an area in town that when I was in high school was like a Johnny's Charburger, like burger joint. But when they were constructing Johnny's, they realized that the area was an unmarked grave site from back when Norman first started spreading out. And there was stories from workers at Johnny's of like the freezer door opening and closing, or customers walking up to the counter and then disappearing and stuff like that. And now it's a Dutch Brothers Coffee, but it kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah, when I was growing up, it was like a tune-up shop, and the mechanics there always said that there was that stuff that would move their tools around and like throw things. And
the city finally put up a plaque and moved the bodies that they found. But yeah, supposedly when they were doing construction, they actually found like one of the graves.
Yeah, I know that's a lot more common in other places, like where there's a lot more, history of dense populations that have been there for like a long time. I guess in places in Europe, it's not uncommon to, find like pieces of bones and, the walls and stuff because of the way that stuff was dug up to make the bricks. And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
I think they found a whole like almost underground, a whole like city when they were constructing an apartment building in Greece recently or something like that.
Cool. Interesting.
Interesting enough, I'm actually going to school currently for funeral directing. And I just took a class over the history of cemeteries and all that. And in fact, in a lot of countries in Europe nowadays, you don't even buy grave sites, you rent them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, 5 years if you're not embalmed, 20 years if you are embalmed. And then they just take everybody out and throw them all in a big mass grave at the end of it.
do you remember back when the firefighters got that new, it was like a seismograph or something like that?
Yeah.
And they used it to find all the bodies of the inmates that burned up in that fire?
Yes. That was another thing that happened here is we have a mental hospital and there was a fire that killed a couple hundred patients in the hospital, and they threw them in a big mass grave and forgot.
It wasn't until like what, the 80s or 90s that they ended up finding it.
No, it was recently. Early 2000s. The fire department got new ground penetrating radar, and they wanted to test it out. And so they went to the places that they thought that the bodies were, and they eventually ended up finding them. But yeah, it was just, they forgot where they buried the bodies for about 30 years.
That's really interesting.
Hmm.
So I'm a little bit curious, like, as you're studying to become a funeral director, has there been anything that you've learned that really surprised you about the business?
Not so much yet. I mean, not that I didn't really already kind of know. I personally, when I become a funeral director, I think I want to work in a place that does more green burials than anything. But that's just something that's becoming popular again, is the green burial. So
yeah, fuck yeah. I think that stuff is really cool. I think some of the ways that we deal with death with all like the embalming and like, I mean, in some cases it seems like we sort of pretend like it doesn't happen instead of kind of coping with it in a more honest way. And I think that there's a lot of different aspects of that, of course, but even just using all of those chemicals and all of that shit, it's like, do we really have to do that, everybody? So yeah, that's fucking awesome.
And that's one of the reasons why bodies have to be buried in vaults, is it's not so much to protect from the body itself, but the chemicals that are put into the bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to be composted and turned into soil and throw me in a garden.
I think a lot of people want that, because you hear a lot of people say, I just want to be buried to rot in the ground. And it's like, well, you're not gonna if you do a modern burial.
Yeah, you have to.
I want my guts and my bones and all that pulled out and put to good use, whether that's in the ground or in a science lab. But I would like my external shell to be taxidermied and placed in a very horrific pose so that all of my friends can use me as a practical joke to scare the crap out of everybody, so I can continue to haunt everyone long after that.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's similar to what
I almost as twisted as what I want.
I want to be taxidermied and sat in the back row at my own funeral with that hat and sunglasses on, and just see how long it takes for people to realize that's me.
Yeah. I'm also not a
kind of weekend at Chad's.
Yeah. I'm also not opposed to being turned into chili. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you all have already heard this. I'm not going to expose the listeners.
Oh yeah, no, we'll that's a different conversation,
Might
and
take
if you
the
follow
ratings
either
to
one
some
of
other
us,
place,
yeah.
so yes.
Do y'all remember when they found that mummified body in like that haunted house?
Yeah, of Edgar or Edbur or
Edward, he was
he was
from our,
Okie.
yeah, he was from our home state, Guthrie, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He was used as a movie prop and like a fun house
Prop.
haunted house prop. Yeah, they thought he was a dummy, and they found out it was an actual real skeleton.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
one day like the arm or something fell off of it.
He was a mummified corpse, and then one day the arm fell off, and they were like, "Wait a second, this has actual bones in it." And come to find out that he had died, and in order to basically the embalmed him and set him up as a display in his place to show how well he could preserve bodies, and then eventually it got misplaced and ended up as a movie prop.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I have a question for all you paranormal folks, and this is just kind of like a, maybe big picture thing, an opinion thing too, or maybe there is data out there on this, but so there's all these different, like, there's places that we think of that like have reputations for being haunted. The things that come to my mind are places like, obviously graveyards, but places like hotels, theaters, hospitals. What do you all think is the most haunted type of building or structure?
The ones that people want to be haunted.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, I think I agree with you there.
I would say hospitals, in my opinion, or like old asylum, like insane asylums and stuff like that. Things where, with history, like a long-standing hospital or something like that. Something where a lot of bad energy, or maybe not some of the greatest things of humankind, was done to the people there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think every state, almost probably any town has had an old insane asylum or an old hospital that's closed down, has been haunted. And trust me, anytime I go to a new hospital, I can still feel the people around me.
I think especially with the older, like, mental health facilities and stuff, right? Like, there's probably a little bit of like I don't know, there's a sort of existential fear there for me, at least, because a lot of the people that were sent to these places didn't actually sometimes have mental health issues. Like sometimes they were sent there because they were inconvenient, or, other things that like we would say nowadays wouldn't be like necessary for inpatient care, right?
We've covered a bunch of them on our stuff, and there's one that we even posted on, I think, our Facebook and Instagram, a picture of the list of things you could be admitted for, and one of them was literally just being a woman.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so I think that for me, that there's like that existential dread there, where it's like, and this is a great, the great movie, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
such explores a good movie.
This, right? Like, about like what's the difference between the people inside and outside, and like it's all about staying on the right side of that authority, I suppose, right? So that's scary.
But as far as your question goes, like if there's like a trope of a certain type of place that's most haunted or whatever, I mean, you could say asylums, you could say hospitals, you could say a variety of things, but I think the simplest explanation for it is it's places where there is density in human interaction or population. So hotels, theaters, hospitals, asylums, jails. These are places where thousands and thousands of people cycled through decades and decades, and that's gonna leave like kind of like a psychical or an energy type of imprint. There's the paranormal carbon footprint. I don't know. It's and maybe there's something to like stone tape theory on all this, but yeah, I think it has less. I think it has less to do with the locations and more to do with the the intersections of consciousness, I think.
Okay, hell yeah. That's super interesting. Just real quick, what is stone tape theory?
Very similar to Akashic Records, but it's more in a physical space. Like, so
Okay.
if stone record theory is like you have, say, Waverly Hills. Waverly Hills is a prime example where I see stone tape theory happen. Enough happen there that it's kind of imprinted into the physical space as well as the ethereal. So,
Okay,
like,
cool.
there's a density there, and I think history kind of gets recorded. So much so, in fact, that like if you were to take a piece, like a piece of a brick, or I've taken stuff from Sally House and from Waverly, not like stolen, but small things like dirt, water, things like that, and activity will follow. So maybe there is something to some sort of transdimensional historic imprint on a physical location. I don't know. The further down this rabbit hole I go, the more I know, the less I understand. Seems to be the way all of this goes with really researching into to the field research of paranormal. It's maddening.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of folks talking about like this idea of things like piezoelectric materials, like quartz crystals and things like that, like being able to like store intentions or thoughts or other types of information. And so like I'm listening to what you're saying here and like thinking about these materials and everything, and stuff like clay and everything is made of silicates. It's kind of a similar, at least chemical components that are involved there. It's a different structure, but the same kind of stuff, at least in some cases. And so, yeah, I wonder, just from that kind of perspective, there's all kinds of fun things to think about it there as well.
Yeah, well, actually, I love the way that you put that, because here's the thing. Like, stone tape theory is when it happens, like, automatically, just as a natural course of interaction or trauma or whatever that happens in a specific location. But what happens when you take somebody who can actually focus themselves to imprint things onto that? Maybe there is something to that. Maybe some materials can be used as kind of psychic records, Well,
what about a church? Doesn't a church kind of do that in some cases? Like in like the way that it's built and the way like there's kind of like this thought about the architecture and like what it will accomplish for its use in terms of this like kind of like esoteric energy channeling and stuff like that. So there's some, and churches of course are classically, I think, haunted as well. So
I've never been in a church that wasn't haunted.
Yeah.
So.
There was a very interesting story I heard. It was a while ago. It was these investigators. They were doing an investigation inside some caverns under an old house, right? And one night they're just setting up and they're just goofing around and they're like, hey, let's scare whoever. Let's scare Wendy or whoever. And then they like kind of jump out from the shadows and they're like, ooh, boogity boo, And the very next night, they caught what's called a residual spirit, doing that exact same thing as if what they did imprinted on this place and replayed the very next day.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Interesting. So they had like an echo of themselves doing it, sort of? Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm beginning to think that some of these haunted locations might be a little less about being haunted. Like, what if we're actually evolving, like our consciousness is now evolving to start seeing more of reality, which we already know that we can't see the full extent of just based on our visible light spectrum. What if we're now starting to see that things are not so linear in time as we thought?
Yeah.
What if we're actually starting to unanchor ourselves from that concept? And because of that, is this why we're starting to see more paranormal activity, but also people taking a deep interest in this in the last few years? Is it because we're evolving? Are we all starting to see and experience a little bit more, whether that's through magical practices or going out and trying to do like decent paranormal investigations and having these experiences? Are these ghosts, or are we looking into another moment in time in the same place? Maybe. I don't know.
A lot of minds are opening up. So, I mean, when I was growing up, I grew up in this super haunted house. but we weren't allowed to talk about it because that was taboo, that only the devil would haunt a house. But, now 30 years later, it's accepted that a ghost could be in a house, or a house could be haunted. Whereas it wasn't 30 years ago.
That's a good point. I think it's an awakening, and it's also a reclaiming, because you can talk to most children, and children make excellent little scryers.
That's why you have to have a boy if you're doing stuff out of the PGM. You have your boy look in the water, and the boy tells you. Sorry, I'm just joking. Leave the boy out of your magical practice.
Because
be your own boy.
As we age, we close all of our stuffs off from this stuff. We close ourselves even off from accessing our own imagination. We close ourselves off from just doing the simple things like expressing ourselves through art.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. And I wonder, too, to what extent it might also just be like, if we look back and maybe like a broader sense, too, like, is this just sort of like a recalibration after the, hardcore materialism of the Enlightenment, right? Is that pendulum just kind of swinging back to a more magical way of thinking after going really far in the other direction or something, too? Because for a while as a species, like, we're super into it. And I mean, a lot of us are in a lot of places and everything. It's just that the way that it's contextualized within our culture is very interesting. And yeah, absolutely.
We gave up the age of magic for the age of reason, but now we're realizing, now that we've hit the age of reason, we have to go back and balance it out with a new age of magic, I think.
And if you dig into the journals of a lot of those that were there at the beginning of the age of reason, they were alchemists. They were magical practitioners.
Yeah.
Boom. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that ushered in this new age where the earth was spinning in an infinite void and
reining it back in just a little bit. This has been a wild year in a lot of strange ways. And since this is, kind of spooky season, we're doing... we start out with ghost stories, then we went into theoretical paranormal physics and magic, which is great.
Yeah, I would love to get deeper into that topic sometime with you all.
We should arrange a two-parter on that one for sure.
You think we can cover it in 2 parts?
We'll see.
I mean, if they're both 4 hours long, maybe. But I wanted to ask y'all, what are your favorite, weirdest, spookiest, most bizarre things for 2023? The events, whether they happen to you personally or out there in the world. 2023 has been a really, really weird year, and as we're approaching the end of it, it's not gotten any less weird. So I'm wondering what y'all's favorite moments of high strangeness throughout the course of 2023 are.
The congressional hearing. But then also followed by the Mexican hearing. Ugh. I haven't listened to that one yet, but there's something about it that intrigues me so much. I feel like I'm being lied to in one way, but then I believe it in another. So I'm kind of like, there's truth in some aspect of this. What is the actual truth?
Yeah, there's definitely a game afoot.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. I was going to kind of go on that vein as well. And I've similarly been definitely obsessed with it. And I think it's definitely really interesting. I would agree. A game is afoot. It's been fascinating. I've been going back and listening to like old episodes from the Art Bell archive and listening to what people, some of the same people actually were saying about this topic, like back in the late 90s and everything, and hearing how similar what's being said back then is to what's being said now, and sort of like asking, well, like, what is actually being put forth here that's new, A, and B, there's kind of a little bit of an interesting assumption that's built into the whole exercise, which is that the government gets to decide what's fucking true and what's not, which is also an interesting kind of thing to like consider about the whole dog and pony show, or whatever we want to call it. So yeah, I don't know.
Dog and pony show aside, something's happening.
Oh, sure. And so, something has been. I don't, absolutely. There's definitely unexplained phenomena. I'm an occultist. I fuck around with weird shit. I've seen all kinds of fucking weird shit. Like, I definitely work from that assumption.
Yeah.
But the messages that we're getting about it now, I'm asking myself, well, why are we still saying the same thing and pretending it's new? And like, what is going on that this might be distracting us from is something that I wonder a lot. But I don't know.
I honestly, I think it's the second wave of pretty much the exact same people who fought for this, like back in the 90s, as you were saying. They're finally gaining traction. Like before, they could only gain traction within the scientific community and a few oddball billionaires with personal interest, Bigelow. But now you've actually gotten to a point where you have military witnesses and now we have people within position of government who do have a legitimate interest in figuring out what in the hell is going on. And I think that's what the game changer is. It's still, we're in the middle of a absolute disinformation war. So
there's just so many aspects of it that are fascinating. Yeah, I love trying to tease these pieces apart and kind of like think about all these different facets of this very interesting gem that we have to study.
I would agree that, yeah, that's probably the big whopper of 2023. But for me, is almost like an addendum to that. I would argue that some of the most frightening and also absolutely fascinating things that we've picked up on 2023 would be the advancements of what we can understand of the universe, our advancements in understanding quantum mechanics, and like we're starting to learn how to break our reality down into numbers.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, we're seeing a boom in paranormal interest. I don't think that's a coincidence.
We're seeing a rise in interest in fungi as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Finding uses for it.
Oh yeah. So here's kind of a spooky, or maybe not. Maybe it's cool. I'm not sure. The USDA in June of 2023 has allowed for lab-grown meat to be sold to U.S. consumers. So that's a new thing.
Yay.
Yay.
I can't wait.
I mean, I don't know. It could be cool. Like, I like the idea of not having to kill animals, but I'm not really that clear about the process involved here. I haven't like gotten into the science behind it yet, but it seems fascinating.
I'm 100% okay with the Beyond Meat, like that. They're doing fine. Just let them keep doing what they're doing. Lab grown meat. This is we're heading into some really creepy territory there.
Well, I'm wondering if it's actually meat or if it's just being marketed as meat because it has a meat like texture and it's like some kind of like a fungus product or something. I'll need to get deeper into it. But you know what I was thinking? Like the whole Soylent Green thing.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, immediately, as soon as you brought this up, that's where I was going, but I didn't want to sell out and go for that. So thank you for breaking that mold. Yeah.
Anytime, I'll go for that low hanging.
We'll throw the nerd down, and I love it.
You know, according to the FDA rulings,
it's meat, people.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't differ from like stuff like regular chicken or regular beef on a cellular level.
Okay. So then it is meat then in that way.
Uh-huh. I don't know how they develop. I mean, I don't know if they're using like stem cells or something like that.
Maybe
to recreate it. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but I know all I found was that the FDA ruled that, you know, because it's no different than this other meat on a cellular level.
I don't know. There's something odd about it. There between that and honestly, AI is really starting to freak me out at the moment as well. And it wasn't freaking me out until just recently, but it's starting to get a little weirder.
Yeah, when I was on TikTok and I saw that there was an AI that was developed that would beat the Mario World game without even knowing what a fucking video game was able to do it in like 2 weeks.
Machine learning is pretty impressive.
Yay.
For not
Okay,
even
so
being told what its parameters were. It just, like, here you go. And like for like the first week or so, it didn't even know to walk to the right. Then it eventually figured that out, and then it was gone. It was going. That was wild stuff.
Interesting. Okay, so here we go. Cultivated meat. This is from Associated Press. Cultivated meat is grown in steel tanks using cells that come from a living animal, a fertilized egg, or a special bank of stored cells. In this company's case, it comes out in large sheets that are then formed into shapes like chicken cutlets and sausages. Good Meat, which already sells cultivated meat in Singapore, the first country to allow it, turns masses of chicken cells into cutlets, nuggets, and shredded meat and satays.
Okay.
Don't look for this novel meat in U.S. grocery stores anytime soon. Cultivated chicken is much more expensive than meat from whole farm birds and cannot yet be produced on the scale of traditional meat. But yeah, they're like working on it. I mean, I think the idea of not having to like kill a bunch of animals is kind of rad, but yeah.
It sounds to me like they're taking out the step where they feed a bunch of chickens into like the pureer before they stamp them into the dinosaur shapes, and they go, you know what? Let's just make the puree without all the chickens.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then you get the end product of the little dinosaurs.
Of the dinosaurs, which is very important. Thank you, Dave.
On how political, how
those are the kinds I buy. So
how political, how in depth you want to get in it, but cells are living things.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How far are we going to take this battle? Because
only question Dave makes me think of is, can we get dino nuggets that taste like dinos?
Ooh.
Well, I mean, dinosaurs would be related to birds, so maybe they do taste like them already.
Oh, it's a type of raptor. It's not the velociraptor. It's one of the types of raptors that they think was what became birds.
Yeah, there's a couple different lineages and of dinosaurs, and the one that they think survived into, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but yes.
And they know all this from like time travel and things. I'm not sure how science works.
They're just going off of the evolutionary possibilities of the design of dinosaur bones.
I like the time machine idea better.
Yeah. I actually just been watching a bunch of paleontology documentaries recently, and one of them is the brain cavity of a Allosaurus is very similar to that of a I'm trying to remember what kind of bird it was now. They showed it, but like some kind of vulture or something like that, some bird of prey. But doing a CAT scan of the area of the brain or of the skull where the brain would be, the brain cavity, are very, very similar. And so that's why they think, one of the reasons they think dinosaurs evolved in the birds.
Yeah, there's a lot of different reasons too. There's stuff about feathers and eggs and all kinds of shit. Yeah, it's really interesting. So my spouse has this book. It's like this book that's made for kids by this guy named Ken Ham, who's like a anti-evolution Christian person who makes a lot of money off of these ideas. And there's so many. It's a really, we keep it around for its novelty purpose, but like there's all kinds of hilarious things in there. Like, and it's all illustrated with these little cartoons. And one of them is people hiding dinosaur bones and stuff to try to make Christians doubt in the Bible.
Oh God, no, that's like did you see the one like somebody? I don't know if y'all caught on to this, but apparently the rapture was supposed to happen on the 23rd of September. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that was just the other day.
Right. Yeah. Somebody wrote a post like, "It's my favorite time of the decade. Someone's claiming the rapture is coming, so it's my turn to go out into the public and leave random sets of clothes and shoes out in the world, and just to throw people off."
That's very fun.
I love that. That's well, there was the last time the rapture was coming, people were selling
Oh, the Harold camping campaign. Yeah.
They were doing like the dog sitting, the pet sitting for after the rapture. They were selling like insurance to the people that once the rapture happened, that they knew they weren't going to be going to heaven, so they would go and take care of these people's animals after they were, sucked up into heaven.
Oh yeah, they made millions.
They made tons of money doing this.
I think they run Bitcoin now. They're great at those big scams like that. They did another one too. I can't remember what it was, but those same people, they did a big insurance scam like that as well.
Well, if the rapture did happen, I'm glad to see we all made it through.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So going back to the chicken cell thing, right? I wanted to reel that back in for a second.
All right.
My concern is less about the fact that it's happening and more of, no matter how you want to cut it, it's still processed food, and they're using techniques that we might not see the effects for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like all the processed food that we've been eating for decades, come to find out, is probably contributing to a lot of our really, really hardcore health problems like cancers and things like that. I would say that's my thing. Is my argument would be to like really put it to the test and make sure it is 100% sustainable, 100% safe, and it might take like a decade or so to really, really get that data to make sure that there could be something off that could affect us that we just are unaware of yet.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, you could make that case for like a lot of the different things that we eat in terms of like, yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of stories in the past, like things like partially hydrogenated oils, which we found out like the body just can't really process very well. And it made a lot of people sick. I don't think they use them anymore, but it was very popular for a while. And just, yeah, things like that, like all these like fucking science experiments that we have in our food. And it's on one hand, it's like, well, there's a lot of people in the world and people need to fucking eat or they'll starve and shit. So there's a reason that this stuff is happening. But like, on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, it definitely raises some questions and shit for sure. And yeah.
It's just like, I love weird science. I just don't like eating it,
Yeah, I think that, there's a lot of questions there for sure. I'm kind of like a health food nut. Like I don't really eat a lot of like fast food and shit like that. And so yeah, I'm probably like right there with you. I don't think I'm going to be rushing out to buy these fake chicken nuggets or whatever, but maybe like I don't know. Who knows what in the future, like it's possible that you might not even know, or maybe that's all there will be. Like maybe there won't be any chickens anymore. Who knows, right? Like it's crazy. So
what if we find out it really is a Soylent Green scenario? They're just not killing anybody. They're just cloning humans instead.
I wonder if it would be more delicious than chickens.
I mean,
It'd have to be. You got to do a lot of shit to chicken to get it to taste good.
All right. Well, so this is getting dark. I'm gonna go back to the original question about 2023 and paranormal things and hauntings and stuff. So one of the things that I did this summer was some public ritual at the Babylon Rising Panthelemic Festival. And part of this was part of an experiment that I've been conducting involving using like sound magic, audiomancy, and other things to create haunted items. Like I've created this special, audio track, this music track that is specifically for investing items with the spirit of this like artistic project, this like muse or whatever you want to call it, like into these physical things, like through a little like ritual that I've designed. And so at this festival, I did a larger scale public version of this and invited people to, if they would like, come and put items onto the altar to be, haunted with this spirit. And I've gotten a couple of fun stories back so far. And one of the people that helped me with the ritual is actually doing some cool like audio magic stuff now, and we might collaborate together and everything too. So there's been some interesting developments that have come out of that work. And so yeah, kind of speaking of haunted, I haven't had a lot of like, my experiences with the paranormal aren't I'm very jealous, like hearing about when people can see all these ghosts and all this. Like, that's not apparently how my mind works. I'll hear a lot of things, but I don't see a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, I don't have a lot of like direct news on that tip that I really want to share. But there's definitely been some like very spooky synchronicities, and yeah, we're feeling happy about how that experiment is going. So yeah.
Right on. I hope we can hear it sometime in the near future once you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that will be part of the album I'll be releasing pretty soon here. It's going to be available on Friday, October 13th of 2023.
And where all is it going to be available at?
I'm going to put it on Bandcamp. I'm probably going to make a supercut of it and put that on YouTube and SoundCloud too, so people can like have a variety of different ways to listen. It's nice to be able to have just like one track rather than having it, have those spaces between. So, and yeah, with just the supercut, it will take any possibility of commercials, I think, out of the equation. So, yes.
Right on. Well, let's be sure we get a link for that in everybody's show notes as well so that we can follow that. And what was the date on the release?
The 13th. And I will definitely hook you all up with that. And yeah, you can find it on Bandcamp for Lux Estrada too.
Sweet. What else you got coming down the pipeline right now?
Well, so Green Mushroom Project and We the Hallowed Artist Collective have teamed up to put together Fuck Around and Find Out Part 2, the digital mixtape. So we've asked people from our communities to submit tracks involving working with the mushroom current or other types of esoteric work. And we've gotten some really, really cool tracks that, yeah, it's just been so cool hearing what people have submitted. So that's going to be out on the Green Mushroom Project's 3rd founding anniversary / birthversary on October 31st of this year.
Can't believe it's turning 3. Wow.
I know. Yeah. And that's going to be available we're going to put it on the We the Hallowed Bandcamp, which is much cooler and more built out than the ones that I have made. And so thank you to Keats Ross and everybody over at We the Hallowed for collaborating on this project with us.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear it.
It's going to be dope.
Amy, Dave, Chad, what do you guys have coming down the pipeline? We are hitting spooky season. You got anything coming up that we should let everybody know to keep their eyes and ears and bat wings open for?
Halloween night, October 31st. We will do our annual live Halloween show. We usually do it through Facebook on our Facebook group, where we set up a table. We do divination. We do ghost box, we do all kinds of stuff, and
we're always costumed,
and we're costumed, and our costumes are working out this year too. So
very fun. Is it going to be a surprise what you're dressing up as?
I guess, kind of, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, then I won't ask for spoilers then.
All 3 of you doing this together?
Yeah, well, all 3 of us will be here together doing it.
Yeah, last year we were part of the Scooby-Doo gang.
Yes.
It was fantastic.
And it worked out great because our daughter had broken her leg and was in a wheelchair, and she was the mystery machine. And then Dave was Scooby and I was Velma.
I was Shaggy.
If you've never seen Scooby-Doo drawing spirits into crystals, it's worth a watch.
My favorite was still the first year, but
yeah.
I came as Lucifer.
Awesome. So how many years have you all been doing this now?
It'll be our 5th.
Very cool.
Oh, nice.
Fourth.
Yeah, we didn't do it the first year, but yeah, it'll be our 4th year.
4th year.
All right.
We didn't know any better our first year.
Yeah. Well, our first year, we'd only even been podcasting for 3 months. So
makes sense.
We were still figuring out how to make it sound better.
There's a hell of a learning curve here. Yeah, absolutely.
How about you, Flood? What do you got going on for spooky season?
Well, a few things I can talk about. So sometime this month, we're actually going to be doing a commentary on the Mothman prophecies with screenwriter Rich Haddam, the guy who adapted it from John Keel's book. So me and hopefully Aaron Dietz from Hey Strangeness and the Small Town Monsters crew are going to sit down with him, talk about his writing process, how he adapted the essentially the unadaptable at the time, and how he chose what he could to put into a script that was only for a 2-hour movie. Everybody who listens to my show knows that I love Rich. He's been on before. He's an absolute riot. This guy cracks me up. One of the smartest people that I've ever met. And yeah, it should be a good time. So if there are any fans of the movie out there, be sure to send in questions if you have, because we'll have a little listeners questioning segment at the end. And once I have the date going, Patreon subscribers will actually be able to join us live as we do this. But yeah, everybody else can catch it on the flip side when it comes out on Halloween. That'll be my little Halloween gift to everybody.
I have a question for him.
Yep, send it in. Yeah, I'm compiling it now.
I just want to know when he's going to do Mothman 2, the Injured Cold story.
Actually, like he and I talked about that not too long ago, and I would love to see, like, with what we can do with streaming services these days, I would love to see somebody try to really adapt the entirety of the Mothman prophecies, because that was batshit crazy. It's the whole rainbow of paranormal phenomena all in the span of 18 months, and it's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's an interesting story.
And it permeates too, because every podcast, every show I've ever listened to that has anything to do with Mothman, they find their own synchronicities in this. They wind up going off on their own like adventures, and it's just wild.
It happens. Like I went there and did an investigation myself, and it was absolutely insane. It was subtle in some ways and slaps in the face in others. So yeah,
I want to play with Mothman. This sounds like fun.
That's exactly what we ran into when we were doing it. We were doing an Injured Cold episode, and all of a sudden it was like left and right synchronicities were coming at us and things were happening.
We were all three having the same dreams and things.
Yeah.
Straight up, I will I will state open invite to all of you. The next time I go up to Point Pleasant, if you want to be a part of this, I can guarantee you that place is still active, and anybody, but what it is, it's not just the space. Now here's something that transcends time and space. This happened decades ago, and it still reverberates through consciousness. It catches like a wildfire. Every few years, you get a new wave of new people who become obsessed with this because they know something's up. They're connected to it in some way. Our trip to Point Pleasant was wild, but the thing is, I didn't know what in the hell I was doing back then. So I'd love to go back now, knowing what I've learned in the last 4 years, and really approach it in the right way. But yeah, open invite, because maybe we make something happen.
Well, it definitely sounds like
I'm
fun.
down.
All right, we'll add that to the list.
Okay.
But beyond that, I think the only other real thing to announce is I think after we get done with everything on Halloween, we're going to hit the big end of the year series for us, and it's going to be focused on the Uinta Basin in Utah. And because I just don't want to ruffle feathers, let's just say it's very close to a famous ranch in northern Utah, and what we experienced while we were out there, which was 4.5 days of some pretty strange things that are actually still reverberating. So we're going to be doing a deep dive. It might be like a 4 to 6 part series. Haven't figured that out yet, but it's going to have a whole lot of supplemental material. And then at the end of this year is going to be the big baseball bat knock out of the park, where we deliver our ongoing hypothesis for all of the paranormal stuff that we've done, and we're going to take a kind of new direction for the next year. But it's going to get wild, it's going to get crazy, and I hope that all of you are going to be coming back for the holiday party at the end of the year that I do.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
Sweet. So anybody else got anything worth noting that's coming down the pipeline, or anything that we want to touch on before we start to wrap up?
Well, yeah, there is one other thing that I was hoping to mention, and this is something that actually, Dave, you were pretty instrumental in putting together, and this is the mycocultus working for the Green Mushroom Project. There's going to be a special episode of my show in which Dave and I discuss all of what this thing is, but basically it's a... Well, actually, do you want to go ahead and describe it, Dave?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. It's kind of a reskin and reworking of some classical occult tech, like the kinds of stuff that you might find in like a sort of classical mystery tradition scenario, only it's been kind of reworked in a less gendery, more mushroom-oriented way. And so we're really looking forward to putting this out here. It's been a really cool collaborative effort that, Dave wrote this thing up, and Shane Mindbender has been helping with editing, Laughing Dog with some of the graphic stuff. We've had a lot of beta readers. Thanks so much to everybody who's been contributing on that front. And so it's a cool group effort that we're really looking forward to putting out there. So we're thinking that this is going to be probably around that same time, around the holiday-ish time, towards the end of the year, as 2023 closes up.
Sweet.
So yes, keep an ear out for that, and an eye out as well. We'll have that posted all over the place, and the tech itself will be available on the website and other places as well. That greenmushroomproject.com is where you can find out more about the project.
I guess for us, we are rolling up on our 300th episode, and it'll be right around the first of the year. Awesome. And we always do a cryptic battle. Every 100 episodes, we do a cryptid battle. Where we battle all the cryptids that we've talked about against each other. Past winners have been Mothman and the Werecow.
The Bozak humanoid.
And the Bozak humanoid.
Oh, yeah.
So
that was the craziest battle episode of battles I think we've ever gone through.
That was a good one.
So that will be coming up right after the first of the year sometime soon. So,
all right, fantastic. Well, all kinds of good shit to look forward to. Well, thank you all so much for including me. This has been really, really fun.
Oh, this has been a blast. Yeah. And then thank you everybody for all the stories. I love finding out more about all of this spooky history and that I was unaware of.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to start researching for next year. Make sure we come up with something even better than the zucchini.
See, all right, that one's really gonna the final thought here, like that one's really gonna stick out to me. I really want to look into how far similar legends go like that with Native Americans. Is it strictly between those tribes that you mentioned, or do we find it outside of that?
From my research, what I found is it was mainly in those tribes because they were all forced into one common area. But I'm sure that the other tribes, just like happens in the world, I'm sure other tribes have some legend of an owl type creature that is an omen or anything like that. Owls are, it depends. A lot of the Native American people I know are not big fans of owls. But then there are some that, love owls. So, it just kind of depends on the tribe and their stories. But I'm sure that different tribes have different myths about them and all that.
The Thunderbird was another one that was very widespread amongst the tribes.
Yes.
And some of them, they paired it up with a giant snake that would do like cosmic battle with each other.
There's a lot of fascinating symbolism with all of that. I would love to look further into it for sure.
I would say some of my favorite legends and lore to cover are Native American legends.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Our new library here they took that section that's like native studies and they made it its own floor, because we got probably the biggest one in the country of books on this subject. So the entire floor is just has to do with Native American lore and study.
Man, you guys just keep throwing it down. All right. I'm coming to visit.
Sounds cool.
Like, apparently there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and there's some opportunity for me to get some cryptid action. So, yeah, we're gonna make that happen sometime this year.
And you can never, forget the Oklahoma octopus.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thunderpuss.
Thunderpuss.
Thunderpuss is that's probably one of my favorite bits so far. That's
Thunderpuss power.
Yeah, I still need to get that shirt. I had trouble finding it. Please send me the link.
Okay, totally will.
All right.
I think. Well, fuck yeah.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Fuck yeah. So this kind of wraps up. This has been the second annual Spookier Side of the Green Mushroom Part 2, Electric Spookaloo.
Electric Spookaloo.
Trademark. Yeah.
Trademark.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for joining. I love you to pieces, and we will talk to you all soon.
Yeah, thank you all so much for all your awesome stories, and thanks so much to everybody listening. Hope you're having a great day, evening, or whenever you hear this.
Yes, you all are all amazing. Mwah, 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 mwah.
All right, fuck yeah, indeed. Thanks so much to Flood, Amy, Dave, and Chad for including me in this very fun chat. You might have noticed the fantastic sound design in what you just heard. Big thanks to Flood for rocking that. At the time of putting this episode out, I've just returned home from a pretty fun and wild adventure running around multiple states here in the US, and I'm happy to be home. Floyd was a gigantic help in getting you all this episode. It's always an awesome time hanging out with the folks from Unearthing Paranormalcy. We did a very fun episode of Smuts Up with them, in which we discussed the topic of monster fucking a little while back. Perfect for this time of year. Or any time of year, for that matter. It's always so fun to be able to collaborate with the other people on the network, which is really more of an anarchic podcast collective than anything else. Very lucky to be working with such kind and fun people. We've got Administrism, Grognostics, Primordia, Ad Hoc History, Smuts Up, Unearthing Paranormalcy, and Ex V Planis. Check the show notes for links to those, as well as for a link to the new album, Void Machine Adjustment. We'll be going out with a track from that titled Mechanosphere. If you enjoyed the discussion of disclosure that was part of today's conversation, my brother Asher and I will be recording more along those lines in the near future for Ad Hoc History. And I think we're going to be inviting some folks from the network, too. It's not the history podcast you wanted. It's the history podcast you deserve. What do you think? Is this all a psy-op to distract us from something greater or seize more social control? Is this the real thing and we're finally being told the truth about what we've known or suspected all along? Is it some combination? The water's muddied by con people and spies and the like. We're going to get into it. So curious to hear what you think as well. We're going to be doing listener mail and shoutouts in the next episode, but in the meantime, I'd be interested in hearing about that topic or any ghost encounters you all might have had. Have you had any weird run-ins with spirits, spooks, creepies, or the like that you feel like sharing for the listener mail segment? If so, you can reach me at luxoccultpod@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at luxoccultpod. If you like the show and you into what I've got going on here, you can support me on Patreon. Making the show is a pretty wild amount of work, especially just for one intrepid podcaster, as I say, but I am super happy to be able to do it. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much to the people who are making it possible by giving on Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee, and to the people who are supporting the show by spreading the word. Tell your friends, your mom's friends, and your uncle's golf buddies. Tell your foes, your lovers, and the person who makes your pumpkin spice latte. You can also post about it on social media or write a positive review or give it stars where that's a thing. All of this stuff is super helpful. And thank you so much to everybody who is helping by doing that. So, and yes, don't forget to smash the shit out of that follow button so that you can get updates when new episodes come out. You can find Lux Occult, Hello Void, and other merch available at Illumin Industries, which is my Etsy store. Items will be printed on demand using the most eco-friendly options I could find and shipped directly to you at pretty close to cost. And there's some pretty fun stuff in there. The winners of the Tentacle Poetry Contest will be receiving some of that soon. Speaking of which, let's savor the flavor of the last tasty tentacle morsel with this piece by Max, who wrote, "Thank you for this challenge. I definitely spent about an hour overthinking it and trying to learn about PN diodes. Nothing like a good trip through Wikipedia." I couldn't agree more, Max. Thanks so much for your submission and for being such a good sport. Fuck yeah. Alright, here is the piece. Who knows current better than those who dwell in it? Potential is innately evident to those who always have ink. Power is an eightfold consequence. Fuck yeah, Max, I love it. It works on a lot of levels. And thanks also to everybody who submitted work to the Cryptography and Poetry contest. So thinking about current and power and potential and stuff like that is sometimes a great means to finding workable magical metaphors, or metaphors about how magic might be observed to function in the world. Based on my own experiences, I often suspect that there's some kind of dynamic push and pull that takes place with some types of esoteric forces. I think there's a lot of different nuanced types of this stuff, but I'm not really sure that I would agree that there's like this battle of good and evil going on. That seems kind of reductive and doesn't really compute. It feels more like a dance between the gravitational and centrifugal force encountered in some systems. Thinking about Ohm's law, the relationships between current, voltage, and resistance might be another way to feel this out. Speaking of resistance, I'll leave you all with the Green Mushroom Project Statement of Resistance, followed by a track from Void Machine Adjustment here in a minute. I guess I should mention here, while I'm on the topic, I would like to warn folks that there's a little bit of adult audio content as part of the track. Nothing too over the top by my way of measuring these things, but that is of course very subjective. I wanted to mention it in case that might be an issue for anybody, or if you're just not in the mood for weird, sexy music right now. Take care of yourself. So this track was something that I wasn't planning on making. I thought the album was done, but my collaboratory muse, or whatever you want to call it, the pushy thing that I work with, had other plans. I was preparing for a pretty busy day of doing other things when I sat down and created most of what is in this track in sort of like a fugue state. And when I was done, there was this very clear idea in my head about this experiment that I could attempt with what I had made. So while I was conducting some of the ritual work related to charging up the track and making recursions of it and all of the other things that go into my creative process, I decided to give all of this a try with this experiment. So in constructing the sort of magical lattice for what I put into the track, I've taken some inspiration from several pop culture sources that probably won't be apparent from listening to the track. I'm a big nerd for the fantasy literature genre. The idea of naming magic is something that I think a lot about, both in its more helpful and in its shadow aspect. And the idea of what a name means and what it does, its function in the world as an entity, is interesting to me. So as I celebrate the conclusion of this period of pretty intense and sometimes unpleasant magical work by releasing this album and getting it the fuck over with, I'd like to express my deep gratitude for all the support and interest people have shown in my work and in the projects I'm collaborating on. The show, my audio work, the Mushroom Project, all of the other very cool things that I'm very lucky to be involved in. It means a lot to me. The topic of spirituality and stuff like that is something that hits close to home for a lot of people, and that you all would trust me enough to listen to me, my guests and I talk about it. Even if you don't agree with everything that's said, which you totally shouldn't. How would we ever learn anything if we all agreed all the time after all? But that you would even trust me enough to just listen is an honor, so thank you. None of this would be possible without you all, and I really appreciate it. Everything is a feedback loop, and everything is an interaction. There used to be a shy person who wanted to make a podcast about chaos magic and other shit, but felt too afraid and anxious to do it. Now there's me, your host, Lux Occult. And my name is a heart, girt with a serpent. Resist. Resist by maintaining sovereignty of the self. Resist by maintaining love of the self. Resist by maintaining fierce loyalty to love and pleasure. Resist with acts of radical kindness. Focus on the path to better times. Fuck yeah. Thank you so much to Amy, Dave, Chad, and Flood for joining me today, or for allowing me to join them. Thanks so much to Tarek Rising and Abracadaver, and everybody who contributed to Fuck Around and Find Out too, and the Tentacle and Poetry contest. And most of all, thanks so much to you for listening. Much love. This is Lux Estrada, reminding you to stay strong and stay fucking curious. Here's Mechanosphere from Void Machine Adjustment. Cheers. At the threshold where the machine curls back in on itself to caress the void and spin forth into new dreamings, new dances, there are ghosts in every particle. Each fragment is haunted with the remembrance of the unknown and unknowable that washes upon its boundaries. Investment with spirit makes all media haunted, each a lens, each a map, and steps in a pattern. Spooky action at a distance entangles the interior and exterior, subject objects and sub-objects connected by patterns in the spinning shrapnel resulted from the machine shattering. As in atomic bubble chambers, we can see the evidence but never grasp the event. This belongs to the void. Our senses are cluttered with evidence of it. We swim in an embarrassment of riches and have dreamed with such density that we mistook it for solid ground. Maps became territories as we drew more maps upon them until we convinced ourselves that we could dream our way out of the machine. But this is only another dance, another result of its turnings. I have made earnest requests with the assumption that effort will be necessary, and the machine has shown me enough of itself to reveal the vision I hope to gain. I have accessed the patterns and processes previously denied, and I have taken a measure of comfort in the insight this provides. There can be peace in killing a thing by driving a name through its heart, eliminating the possibilities to experience it otherwise. But I have seen ducks and I have seen geese, and can take solace in the ability to name what stands before me. I have met worthy adversaries who have tested my fortitude and invited me into new ways of knowing. The machine has danced with itself in ways which brought pleasure and ways which brought pain. There will always be gaps in it. Places we must remember are, by necessity, unknowable, untouchable, unmeasurable. This is where the void flows in to whisper to us of ourselves. We have to be shattered in order to be able to look upon ourselves. In addition, remembrance of this shattering invites a quest for the understanding of wholeness. You will be made to walk wearily up a steep slope, and will be witness to horrors and joys. That which you have set forth will return to you in advanced iterations of itself. Chickens come home to roost and lay eggs which hatch into more chickens. You will be destroyed by what is revealed to you. And if you are strong, you must forge yourself anew, an improved iteration of your previous form. All components of the shattered self must be accounted for, each piece given its chance to partake in the dance. All components are connected. We will never be apart, not in a way that stretches across things. And this at once is horrible and comforting. My name is a heart, girt with a serpent. Hayath. Sabayoth.
Lux Occult is a part of the Green Mushroom Podcast Network. Hi, I'm Prater Yarmarud,
And I'm Zarina.
and we'd like to introduce you to Administrism.
What is Administrism?
As an occultist, for years I felt the universe directing me towards a practice that was ecologically based with a foundation laid out by cultures untouched by the influence of what's become modern Western society. With labels like shamanism and neo-shamanism carrying too much uncomfortable post-colonial baggage, I've decided to take my own approach.
Join Yara and me as we research and develop a magical system where we recognize our place in nature with all the life that surrounds us. We want to share with you our journey into a paradigm that incorporates ritual and ecology, anthropology and metaphysics, biology, and the occult.
Using ethically sourced material, historical accounts, ethnographic records, and our own personal experience, we want to share our discoveries as we watch Administrism grow in an organic blend of traditional spirituality, modern science, and a dash of homesteading, without all the connotations associated with labels like shamanism.
We hope that by listening to how Administrism sprouts in us, it will plant its seeds into your own practice. This way, you can find your own balance between magic and nature.
Because the world needs room for both.
And don't forget, you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
So what's up? It's the sex-positive comedy show your parents forgot to warn you about.
I will be a delightful host, Deep Weird, and with me are my three very sexy friends.
I'm Captain Spanx, dropping anchor. It's a spanker.
Hi, I'm Ray Gunnigan, and I'm about to eat 16 feet of nerds rope.
And I'm Luxa, and that is all you get to know about me. Join us for a ride full of twists and turns as we explore the rabbit hole that is human sexuality.
I, Smuts Up Crew, would like to propose
Oh my god, he's proposing.
a question.
Get down on your fucking knees. If you're curious about expanding your horizons or getting more comfortable in your own skin, then the Smuts Up podcast is for you. Or maybe you're just a horny nerd or a person who enjoys outdated references. The Smuts Up podcast is fun for the whole step family.
I'm gonna say the B word. Butthole sunning.
If you were to put a hot dog in it, is it a sandwich?
I don't know. Is a bread dildo with a hot dog inside it a sandwich? Write to us at smutsup69@gmail.com and let us know what you think about that. Available on your favorite podcast apps.
I put a D20 in my mouth.
Nailed it.
Are you tired of other so-called energy drinks leaving you stuck at start while your opponents level up? Try Demon Semen, new from Blastastic. With 5 patented ampers plus a spicy kick of cayenne, Demon Semen will have you blasting to the next level. Don't have time to guzzle the whole bottle? Sometimes I just spray it all over my face for a quick pick-me-up between bosses. Demon Semen by Blastastic. It's conquest in a can. Blastastic, get blasted! Demon Semen and Blastastic are registered trademarks of Illumin Industries. All rights reserved. Available wherever narcotics are sold. See label for possible side effects.
Hey, what's up? I'm Luxa.
And I'm Josh. Are you looking for a chill place to hang out online and chat about chaos magic, occultism, witchcraft, and more? Are you hoping to learn and share your knowledge and experience in a place that is welcoming to folks of all different backgrounds and identities?
If so, check out the Green Machine Discord server, home of the Green Mushroom Project and Administrism. Our growing community of chaotes, occultists, sorcerers, witches, and weirdos has all kinds of fun and interesting things going on. From chats and rituals to workshops, clubs, and more. There's a lot of cool opportunities to get involved.
Sounds great, Luxa. How can folks find us?
Well, for now, we're keeping things pretty small as we grow, so we're not advertising on any of the Discord services that do that. But folks can hit me up and I will send them a link. You can reach me at luxoccultpod@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram at luxoccultpod.
Fuck yeah!
Fuck yeah.